Dear Hadith followers, today's video is going to be about one of your greatest claims, that we can't understand the Quran without having relevant Hadiths. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open the Quran and show you guys firstly just some little things the Quran has to say about itself and understanding. And then we're going to move on from there into showing you, grabbing Hadiths that relate to a certain Quranic ayat, and then showing you that the characters involved, even though the Hadith does explain it, characters involved actually look like they're doing something bad. Now, if you have any problems with the content, because this does show insults towards the Sahaba, please let me know in the comments below. But it is not me who is insulting your Sahaba, it is your own Hadith that is insulting your Sahaba. So if you have any problems, leave your comments below and then please go and see your Sheikh. So dear Hadith following friends, without further ado, here is relevant Hadiths to Quran. Friends, welcome to another episode, and it is good to have you here. Now, to begin with, I said at the start that I'm going to go over the Quran, open the Quran, and show you guys a little what Allah has to say about understanding. And what I mean by this, I'm not going to go over every account of understanding because there is a lot to cover here, but just give you guys I want to ask one question in regards to understanding before I continue on with the subject. That is, this is the combination of two words where it appears in the Quran, O men of understanding, or those of understanding. Now, it's a better translation of this would be, O people of understanding, or O mankind, without the gender. And understanding should be intuition, because intuition means to use your intellect to come to an understanding. So it should be O people or O mankind of intuition. However, men of understanding is still a good translation. Now, the reason I wanted to show you guys this is because Quran is actually written as a guide and a reminder for those of understanding. And my first question I should say, for my Hadith following friends is, dear Hadith followers, do you think we need a dummy's guide to understand the Book of Understanding? Do you think we can't actually obtain an understanding from the book written for those of understanding? Sorry guys, it makes me laugh. Just so shallow, how shallow some people can think. SubhanAllah, the Quran is just so beautiful. So please explain to me, guys, how you guys think you need an outside party to explain a book that's already explaining itself and giving an understanding to mankind. So it just doesn't make sense to me. So please, that's my first question. Now, to continue on with the subject and what it is, I'm going to show you guys Quranic ayats and in comparison to hadith, and show you how the people involved actually look like they're failing or not being the best Muslims that they can be. The first ayat I wanted to show you guys was 33:59. O Prophet, say to your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to draw over themselves of their outer garment, that is more suitable, that they should be known and not harmed, and is Allah Oft-Forgiving, most merciful. So most people say that, this is proof that, covering your women, drawing over themselves their outer garment actually stops them from being harmed. Now, the hadith for this is actually pretty shocking, because what you will see is that, here it is from sunnah.com. I'm going to read this out for you guys and we'll start from there. So it starts by saying, the wives of the Prophet used to go to Al-Manasi, a vast open place, to answer the call of nature at night. Omar used to say to the Prophet, let your wives be veiled. But Allah's apostle did not do so. Wait. Let's read that again. Sorry. But Allah's apostle did not do so. Let your wives be veiled. But Allah's apostle did not do so. I think I made that pretty clear. One night, Saudi bint Zama, the wife of the Prophet, went out at Isha time, and she was a tall lady. Omar addressed her and said, I have recognized you, O Sauda. He said so as he desired eagerly that the verses of al-hijab may be revealed. So Allah revealed the verses of al-hijab, and in brackets the burqa. Now, what's important to see is, number one, as I pointed out while I was reading, Omar wanted the Prophet's wives to be veiled, but Allah's apostle did not do so. Allah's apostle did not want it. The second thing to notice is that because Omar desired so eagerly for the verse of al-hijab to actually appear, he harassed the Prophet's wives. He stalked them, he was peeping on them, he was watching them while they attended the call of nature. So when this ayat actually says, and not harmed, it's actually talking about Omar. and nobody else. If this was revealed because of Omar and because he desired so eagerly, and not harmed means this can only relate to Omar and his actions. The other thing to notice is that it says that she was attending the call of nature. That means if you believe that this hadith actually promotes women to cover up, and you give this hadith as women to cover up, as a justification for women to cover up, then you must also agree that when women are actually attending the call of nature, while they're actually doing the call of nature, they still must be covered completely. They cannot actually reveal themselves at any time, because Omar was watching them at this time. He was staring at them. I have recognized you. He screams at her. Like, I don't know how much more clear this can be that Omar, what he was doing here is completely wrong and against the Qur'an. And in fact, as I showed, the harm could only be related to Omar. That's the first one I wanted to show, guys. Now, the second one I wanted to show is still related to Omar, but this time it has Abu Bakr involved. And the second one is 3:153, and it says, when you were running uphill and not casting a glance on anyone while the messenger was calling you from behind you. So he repaid you with distress on distress, so that not you grieve over what escaped you and not what has befallen you, and Allah is all aware of what you do. So in other words, the messenger was calling him. This is the Battle of Hunain. They say you can't understand the battle. The messenger was calling him and they were fleeing. Now I should also show this ayat, which would be 15. Give me a sec, guys. Sorry. Okay, 8:15. And it says, O you who believe, when you meet those who disbelieve advancing, then do not turn to them the backs. And the next ayat says, and not turn to them the backs. And whoever turns to them that day his back, except as a strategy of war, or to join a group, certainly he has incurred the wrath of Allah, and his abode is hell, a wretched destination. So in other words, you cannot turn your backs at the battle of war. However, so this is the ayat we're concentrating on, 3:153. The hadith is, again, sunnah.com. So I'm going to read this out, guys, and just, if you want, you can skip ahead. I'm putting a marker so you guys know where it is. But it starts by saying, when it was a day of Hunain, I saw a Muslim man fighting with one of the pagans, and another pagan was hiding himself behind the Muslim in order to kill him. So I hurried towards the pagan who was hiding behind the Muslim to kill him, and he raised his hand and hit me, but I hit his hand and cut it off. That man got hold of me and I pressed it so hard that I was afraid. Then he knelt down and his grip became loose, and I pushed him and killed him. The Muslims, except the Prophet and some of the companions, who we do know the Prophet stayed behind because of here. It says that while the messenger was calling you, sorry, I lost my spot. Here it is. Started fleeing and I too fled with them. So he fled. So started fleeing and I too fled with them. So this guy has actually fled. Suddenly I met Umar bin Khattab amongst the people who fled. And I asked him, what is wrong with these people? He said, it is the order of Allah. Then the people returned to Allah's messenger after defeating the enemy. Allah's messenger said, whoever produces a proof that he has killed an infidel will have the spoils of the killed man. So I got up to look for the evidence to prove that I had killed an infidel, but I could not find anyone to bear witness for me, so I sat down. Then it came to my mind that I should speak of it, and I mentioned to the case to Allah's messenger. A man from the person who was sitting with him said, the arms of the deceased one who he killed, so the guy who killed, who he has mentioned, are with me, so please compensate him for it. Abu Bakr said, no, Allah's messenger will not give it to the weak, humble person from Quraysh, and leave one of Allah's lions who fights on behalf of Allah and his apostle. Allah's messenger then got up and gave that spoil to me, and I bought with it a garden, which was the first property I got after embracing Islam. Now, the first thing to notice with this comparison is started fleeing and I too fled with them, and Omar was amongst the people who fled. Straight out, Omar has fled. The second thing to notice is when he is asked what is wrong with these people, Omar's response is, it is the order of Allah. It is the order of Allah, which goes against 8:15:16, which I showed before, and which goes against the fact that the Prophet is still actually battling for war and calling him, who has no idea of this order, but Omar somehow has managed to obtain an order from Allah, which Allah is unaware of. Which the Prophet is unaware of. Okay, and the next thing to notice is the fact that towards the end, Abu Bakr said, no, Allah's messenger would not give it to a weak, humble person from the Quraysh and leave one of Allah's lions who fight on behalf of Allah and His apostles. In other words, Abu Bakr here is making an opinion that the Prophet will not do it, however the Prophet does. This person here is the next in charge. The next in charge is making a call which the Prophet doesn't agree with. They say they've got clashing opinions, and you can tell that one has a very different view on life compared to the other one who still gives him the spoil, who still thinks he's due his spoil. So that's the second one I wanted to show, that it's not too much about Abu Bakr that's a problem. The biggest problem is Omar, who had fled, and he said it is the order of Allah. How does Omar know this, that it is the order of Allah? Is that a lie against Allah? The Prophet never received this order and continued fighting, so it makes absolutely no sense to me that he received this revelation. Now, the next one that I wanted to show is 940, and this is quoted quite often. And I just wanted to show a bit of a major problem with this when you accept the hadith with it. So 940, it says, if not you help him. Certainly, this is the cave incident, guys, by the way, with Abu Bakr involved. If not you help him, certainly help him Allah. When drove him out, those who disbelieved, the second of the two. When they both were in the cave, when he said to his companion, do not grieve, indeed Allah is with us, then sent down Allah His tranquility upon him and supported him with forces not which you did not see, and made the words of those who disbelieved the lowest, while the words of Allah is the highest, and Allah is almighty, all wise. Okay, so this is the cave incident, and the related hadith is, I'll go to Sahih Bukhari, and in Sunnah.com. It says, Abu Bakr speaking, I said to the Prophet while I was in the cave, if any of them should look under his feet, he would see us. He said, oh Abu Bakr, why do you think of two, the third of whom is Allah? In other words, Allah is with us. That's what he's trying to say. But Abu Bakr here is the only one speaking. Now, the first thing to notice is, when we go back, it says, now I should say before I begin anything, I know it does say companion here, guys, and I'll link it. The companion, I've got another video regards to the word companion and how it doesn't actually mean good friend. So just because it says the word companion, do not take this as friend. It means someone who was present at the time, which I explain in my other video, which I'll link it. But the first thing to notice is someone is actually grieving. So someone is worried and talking here, and it's only Abu Bakr, the second of the two. And the Prophet actually gets angry, or actually firmly says, oh Abu Bakr, what do you think of the two, the third of whom is Allah, right? Now, so he's grieving, so do not grieve. Now, the first thing to notice is Abu Bakr is speaking, and the only words, it says at the end of it, I should show you the end before I start anything. It says, and made the words of those who disbelieved the lowest, while the words of Allah, it is the highest. The only person speaking in this situation is Abu Bakr. And he's not disbelieving, but he's definitely worried. And so Allah says his words were made the lowest. Okay, so that's the first thing to notice. The second thing to notice is Allah is with us. The Prophet says, then Allah decides to send his tranquility upon him. Upon who? Upon the Prophet. And support him, support who? The Prophet, with forces, not which you do not see. This upon him, singular. This support him, singular, to one person, not both of them. Allah did not support Abu Bakr. Allah did not give his tranquility upon Abu Bakr, and he made the words of the disbeliever. So he not only is Abu Bakr not supported nor given tranquility, his words, he's actually called disbeliever in this ayat. The words of those who disbelieve, the only person speaking, Abu Bakr. So the words of those who disbelieve, the lowest, while the words of Allah, it is the highest. So all honesty, guys, if anyone quotes this hadith, it shows straight out Abu Bakr was worried and disbelieved and was not supported nor was he given tranquility. It was only the Prophet. So if Allah sends tranquility upon the people he loves and supports the people he loves, Abu Bakr is considered a disbeliever and not someone who's worthy of getting tranquility and supporting him. I'm not saying this, guys. The Hadith is. Okay? So please do not get offended by it. Please, quote, go to your imams and ask them. Okay. Now you know what, actually, the video is getting a bit long, so I'm going to end it here. I'll make, actually, later on down the track, I'll make more, because there's so many of these where people are trying to say that it's, you know, it's a good thing, it's a virtuous thing, and it turns out to be quite the opposite. So I'll leave it here with just these two examples, because the video has gotten a bit long, and I'll leave it by asking my Hadith following friends, dear Hadith followers, does this ayat here, where Allah calls the Abu Bakr, the only one speaking, a disbeliever, well, he doesn't call him a disbeliever, but those who disbelieved, so he did disbelieve at that stage, why doesn't Allah send his tranquility upon Abu Bakr? Why doesn't Allah support Abu Bakr? Doesn't he like him? And then, as I showed before with the other ayats, with this one, I asked, how can the Prophet, while he was calling him from behind, Abu Bakr still managed to get the order of Allah while the Prophet was calling from behind? And then I asked with this one at the start, dear Hadith followers, how is this not harmed related to Omar when he was the only one causing mischief and harassing the Prophet's wives enough that they could not even relax while attending the call of nature? So my Hadith following friends, thank you so much for listening. I hope to see your comments below, and also if you want, please provide me the information that your sheikhs or imams provide about this video as well. Thank you so much for listening.